Hi, Sangi. Thank you so much for joining Debug with the Monk podcast. We are really feeling excited to have you on board. Just for my audience, I would like to give you a very quick introduction and I'll let you give your introduction yourself. Sangi is a trained MCT and has been an MVP on Business Central. And he has been working with a lot of young talent and training them up to come in the world of dynamics and create a mark for their career, right? Thank you so much, Sangi, for coming in.
Yeah, thank you, Himanshu. And today I'm not becoming a monk, but I'm happy to join the monks for studio. I have not been told to meditate, guys, so everything is fine. So happy to have been invited. 2.5 hour difference because I'm in Nairobi and you're in India. I think, yeah. So happy to have this chat with you. Yeah, as you mentioned, I'm in the Dynamics ecosystem, Business Central. I have been in the ecosystem from 2018 there and started a podcast or YouTube channel around 2022. I've forgotten the year, but 2021 and or early 2022, in between COVID, not on after COVID or before, but in between. And of course, it's been a great journey with Dynamics 365, of course, and the Microsoft ecosystem.
Amazing. I think maybe, see, I am no yoga expert, but maybe by the end of this session, we may do some sort of, relaxation.
Of course,
Like
of
a,
course.
but yeah.
Yeah,
But
I,
so,
I, I hope I hope you'll tell me I don't know, close your eyes, breathe in, breathe out. Yeah, I'm ready.
yeah, generally that is something that I always do when there is a deployment to production.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially when the data is not matching. And one thing happens, what's working on the sandbox is not working on the production, and then you're like, okay, and we are supposed to go live in the evening today. Okay. You need the monk energy at that time.
That is pretty true.
Yeah.
So, but there's a very interesting thing that you said that you started your YT channel during the COVID time, right? Almost at the peak flare up, right? And that is very true for a lot of companies who have also started, not just the YouTube channel or a lot of companies flared up during COVID period. What exactly motivated you to, go ahead and select Business Central as your
Yeah.
primary skill? And specifically, what motivated you to actually go ahead and start your YouTube channel? Let's start with that.
That's great. So when there's a book that I was actually exploring, as a young developer, you're trying to grow because I was already in the Dynamics ecosystem. I also know Python, I know C Sharp, and I was working on a C Sharp project, a Python project. And my interest actually was to share my journey as I learn. And at that time, I was an expert in C Sharp, but not in Python. And when I started like doing some few projects on Python, like grayscaling an image and such small exciting projects and analysis, that's when I was like, okay, by there I can share this Python on on YouTube and maybe grow a channel. And the aim of starting the YouTube channel, of course, was to grow my career because at that time there were many blogs coming up around let me say 2019, 2020, 2021. You'd find like as a developer, the differentiator was you're either very good that they can't ignore you, or you're also maybe as you learn, you're also sharing your information on blogs so where you can share your journey and people can understand or learn from you because there's always someone who is also starting when you're starting. And then that I was also now getting into the Navision side of business, the old version of Business Central, which was Microsoft Dynamics. And you see now at that time now with the Carl language, also learning the Carl. And there was now a period of transition from Dynamics Nav to Business Central, which I was also learning. And then I was like, okay, maybe this could be the opportunity. And of course, after overthinking, the overthinking was extra because I created, I think, one or two videos on Python, C Sharp, which I didn't even post. I don't know where they are. They are somewhere in one of my old hard disks. And I didn't even post them. I just created a few videos. And then eventually I was like, okay, then let me just learn Business Central because there's a transition from Navision to Business Central as I learn and train people, and that's how I got into Business Central. Yeah, like
Amazing journey.
yeah,
Amazing journey. Yeah, so it's always good to hear. So I have been conducting the podcast amongst other MVPs, a lot of MVPs, and it's always so fun and inspiring to learn how they've switched, how they have been passionate about still continuing to write content, and get in there. But let me ask you something. Like,
Yeah,
let's maybe ask the difficult question here. Let's
yeah,
start with that. So,
yeah,
Business Central is a combination of functional and technical expertise, right? So,
absolutely.
moving from a technical domain to a techno-functional domain, do you still understand the concepts of ledgers, invoices, or you are happy and content with the back-end execution of the business center?
Okay, that was my toughest part in this journey because I can assure you, in high school, I was the first person to avoid anything that had business in it. And I wanted computer. I was like, okay, we had a choice, I think, in Form 3, we call it Form 3 on our side, where we had to choose between business and computer. For me, I was like, okay, I just want computers. I don't want anything to do with business. And there are people who are going into the agriculture, taking agriculture. And I was, okay, computers, no business. So my academic teacher called me and he was like, computer, you can learn it anytime. Anything related to computer studies, you can learn it even in college. They will start from scratch. You learn business because you'll need business everywhere you go. And I was like, no, no, I just want computer. You just leave me alone. So I went against his good advice and went into computers. And even on for the optional courses in the university, I avoided anything related to business. I just wanted something either entrepreneurial or something related to computers, and that was because I did computer science. That was all of it in terms of getting into the ecosystem. But when my first job, I think around 2017, towards the end, that's when now the first task was to install Navision SQL
Mm-hmm.
Server. I knew how to do SQL Server because it was all on prem at that time. I installed Navision, and then now we were given like another book, a very big book that contained the modules, finance, and I don't know, procurement. Then we had to create chart of accounts. Oh, that was tough. It was tough. And I had also to do a few things with fixed assets. Then I was asking the senior developers there and the senior functional consultants, like, okay, so what must I do to learn this ecosystem? Or as a technical person, what must I know so that I understand how this ecosystem works? So a technical person had told me, you just need to understand the accounting equation and understand debit and credit and when to credit, when to debit. That's all. You don't need to understand any other thing. Then I was like, okay, so it's not that tough. Then I called, my dad is an accountant, of course retired, but he's an accountant. So I called him again. Now I was like, oh, I have this new job. You have to help me here. He was my trainer in accounting. I gave him scenarios that were on my mind. I was learning on the side, like trying to understand the basics of accounting, but I gave him scenarios that were complicated, and then he was able to explain. I remember he telling me, debit is a positive figure. You're increasing something. Credit is a negative. But I don't know. The toughest part was when an accountant is telling you in the eyes of the customer. I don't know, in the eyes of the client. That's where I was getting lost. But eventually, as I kept like working on the technical side, it made all sense as I posted now and worked on the functional. And now I appreciate the importance of not being too technical, of slowing down a bit on the technical, and really taking time to understand the system, what it's offering on the functional side, and why it's working this way, because it really makes you a better technical person who, in a way that you won't reinvent the wheel. And when you're implementing a functionality, you can even mirror a part of the base application that is working really well and create a functionality that is actually similar to that. Yeah.
Hmm. Very interesting. So, on a funny side, somebody's debit is somebody's credit, right? So,
Oh yeah, you have to balance.
so
That's
at
the
the
thing.
end of
Like
the
you're
day,
like, okay,
debit
you
has
have
to
to
be net.
balance. Then the
Yeah.
confusing part was where now you can have a major debit and several credits. Oh, because I had not
Yeah.
created a balance sheet. But once I created my balance sheet, And I went in scenarios where, let's start with a business. I'm opening a business. I take a loan from a bank. I do this, and then I'm able to do debit credit. That's when I now understood why the system must, even for you to post a journal, why must it balance? It was very crucial to get to understand an accounting based system, or an ERP in that case. Yeah.
Pretty interesting. At the end of the day, the result has to be zero, post
Yes,
debit
it
and
has
credit.
it has to be zero. That was the other confusing part. You're like, okay, why are you telling me that the result is zero? And how will I know that I've made profit? I'm like, okay, it
Yeah.
will balance, it will balance. Okay, it was a bit complicated, but an
No,
exciting
I think it's very
off-track
interesting.
journey. Yeah.
No, absolutely fine, and I think that's a very good way to start.
Yeah.
Um, let's now dive into an actual implementation life cycle, Sangi. You
Yeah.
you are teaching this, you're implementing this. Let's assume there is this new organization which
Yeah.
is of 5 users, 10 users, and they are currently doing it all manually, and or maybe they're using some sort of other tools
Yeah.
which is not cloud oriented.
Yeah.
What Why will you recommend them a business central?
First of all, I have to check the fit, as you have asked, if it's 5 users or 10 users, and some of them are not ERP ready, and if they are not using any other system, I don't feel like they are ERP ready yet. It will be too expensive for them, or maybe they are starting, unless they have funding where they can really scale up and have users to implement the system. Because it's one thing to have an ERP, it's another thing to actually really make the most out of it, because it demands the user to also put in some effort upfront before they can get the benefits later. And if you have a scenario where you have an owner maybe with 2 employees who are always on the field, they don't have time, they are running things on Excel, then you give them an ERP. First of all, the first challenge will be implementing. You can implement and they have a system, but now will they actually use it? So the main ask is, what system are you currently using? Have you outgrown the system? Because there are organizations, which is entirely okay, they need to start with a smaller system. They don't need to go to an ERP yet. They are maybe they have small operations which require them to maybe start, and then once they keep growing, once they outgrow the operations, they have opened a branch, they have several employees, they now need an integrated system, because an ERP comes to overhaul the entire organization. So the best thing what people should do is assess the fitness of that client to go to an ERP. Yeah.
That is very true for adopting any new tech,
Yeah.
but let's try to decode it in the sense of this scale of the organization. Let's
Yeah. Yeah.
assume that a customer is ready and
Mm.
they should ideally have an ERP.
Yeah.
Maybe it is 3 users, 5 users, 10 users,
Okay.
and that is where the use case of fitment will come in. But assuming that there is a customer which has, let's say, 500 users, right?
Yeah.
Would you still go ahead and recommend Business Central?
Even if it's 500 users, I will still recommend Business Central, because even when you go to an organization with up to 3,000 users, why not? Because Business Central is so scalable, and it can work with many users. And from my experience with Business Central, you'll find that the core operations, only a few users will be really using the system in high scale. And most of them won't be utilizing the system on a day-to-day basis. They won't be logging in every time. Think of the normal users, and maybe those big organizations. You'll find that there's someone who is only logging into the system to raise an expense, and that's it. And then they have logged out and they don't use it again. So they log in once in a month, or so. The number of users sometimes doesn't even really determine how busy the system is. You might find fewer users, even 20, but their operations are many, especially distribution-based system organizations that they are buying and selling at a very high rate. Those are the ones that actually they look into even trying to get a system that works for them really fast.
Agreed. So I think you answered my next question to an extent, which is
Yeah.
basically where do you draw the line in terms of advocating for Business Central, right? Like whether this may be the right fit, this may not be the right fit. You are very correct in terms of it also
Yeah.
does not very directly related to the users, number of users, but it also depends upon operations, which is correct.
Mm.
So um, now let's assume I, as an organization, fit the bill for Business Central, right? We figured out that I want a Business Central. Now, what is the next step or next process? Of course, we'll do fitment, etc. But given that Business Central comes with a what kind of licensing structure do we have just for the audience? Because I
Yeah.
am quite aware of it, but I would love to understand your view and how does it differ from other ERPs in a similar domain? If you have some thoughts
Yeah.
around that.
The licensing structure is one of the simplest in Business Central because other ERPs, including even F&O, they are modular. They are charged per module, but Business Central gives you the whole application. You have Essentials and Premium. Essential is needed for organizations that don't need manufacturing and service management module. So Essential works for many organizations, like the ones that need finance, supply chain management, and maybe projects here and there, and managing their fixed assets, just for the basics or running an organization without the manufacturing aspect. Then the Essential license will really work for them. And of course,
Hmm.
so those are the two categories. Team members is extra, just for view only approvers, not recommended for a user who needs to do transactions, but for an approver or a user who is just not very active, maybe an approver, the CEO or something, or the manager, the board member. Then there's another one, the device license, not spoken of too much, but it comes in handy where you you have users who don't need concurrent access. And this is where maybe people don't get to utilize the device license, and which can save them a lot of license cost. There are users who don't need concurrent access on the system. Like if me and you, we are on the production line of, or we are in the field, but I only log in one at a time, then of course the device license can be uh, it will be per device. So only one the users all the users can access, but one device at a time, sort of.
I did. I think that's also another model in terms of how products can be sold, and I think a lot of people are utilizing this device policy as well, where
Yeah.
there are different shifts and they are focusing on different locations. So, which model do you really like the most in Business Central? Which one do you think is the most fancy and most up to date with the all the current features right now? Is it project operations,
Yeah.
finance?
I still feel finance is the one that takes it all in Business Central, because most of all these other modules, they end up in the finance module. So it's the one that is core, and especially the dimensions in Business Central. And for those maybe who have never heard of dimensions, it's the reporting line. And for example, if you had a branch in Nairobi and New Delhi, New Delhi is a city in India. I hope so.
Absolutely, it's the capital. Yes.
Capital. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you definitely have the two of them. You definitely have the two of them as options, and those will be the reporting lines. So I'm saying finance is the core, and it's the module that the reason I like the finance module. Any person who wants to learn Business Central, they should start with the finance. Once you get the setup right in the finance, you are more or less done. You are very good hands with that application. So it's a very core module, and the setup should be done really well.
So you're saying the finance module in Business Central is quite mature, and it does the job until and unless we are talking about multiple operations like distributions, or may not be the right statement. Also, it
Yeah,
purely depends as we do a fit gap, right?
yeah,
Now, one of the things that I have always been very curious, right? Microsoft has been inducting Copilot into all the products that are coming in, right? Whether
yeah.
it is customer engagement, FNO, how closely or how inherently it is integrated with Business Central right now, and what are the possibilities of writing custom extensions around it? What all we can do? Maybe if you can give us an example of what can really help an organization.
Okay, yes, Copilot, of course, has been growing in all the applications. But the agentic framework is the more exciting one for me, where there's a bit of some autonomy, like it can be autonomous, it can run without the human in the loop for some cases, and like the agents and Copilot, like the payables agent, the sales order agent, and like the sales order agent will be engaging. It will look at your email and engage in multi-turn email conversations with a client. In humane form, the client will feel as if they're speaking to a human being, and the ability where the user doesn't need to context switch between the agent, okay, between Business Central and the email to go and check for information and post it again in Business Central, confirm it, go to Business Central, create a quote, attach it on the other side. And what the Microsoft ecosystem is giving us, especially with the Outlook integration, and when you look at also this ability to read the dedicated email and extract that information, it's really a time saver. It's not perfect yet, has a lot of errors. I have not tested the sales order agent in the current, but the last 3 or 4 months that I had a test ago on it, there was an issue on item availability when you have several categories of items, or you have different varieties of items. But the agents are really working. They are really the game changer for the Copilot. The normal Copilot ask analysis, yes, it's good to have. Not yet, according to me, not yet there in terms of giving real value to the organizations. Maybe item substitutions, but it has to be on a case-to-case basis. And when you think about it, what do we usually do as organizations on a day-to-day basis? What are they doing? When these users, most of the time, they're just moving data from one data source to the other. The data
Correct.
source could be email, they're moving it to the ERP, and they need, and why are they doing that? They need clarity, they need insights, they need accurate information to their users. So yes, there's agents that are coming in, but let's not forget that that is the core. The users, they don't want an agent, they don't want Copilot, they're not even thinking about that. They're like, how can I ensure that I get more orders to my customers? How can I respond better to my customers? That's what they care about. So the integration with Copilot and Business Central, let it come in a way where, as a developer or as a functional consultant, as someone who is proving the concept, let me look at my customer. Is it solving a manual issue that will help them move the data faster from the old system into the new system so that they get insights faster? That's all I believe the users really want or they care about. Yeah.
No, I think there are pretty interesting use cases that you brought in. Let me
Yeah.
try to slightly summarize it so that and let me know and correct me
Yeah.
wherever I'm
No problem.
wrong, right?
Yeah.
So what I understand is like Copilot in its raw form, wherein we use it as a Gen AI tool, and we go ahead and query the data, or maybe use it to maybe pose the data or something of that sort. That still is at innovation or improvisation stage, which may or may not help. Like for example, item substitution, etc. But when we are talking about agents, so the agents are becoming quite realistic in nature, where we, like for example, a sales agent, etc., they can actually mimic a salesperson role, and then it just helps in terms of the overall efficiency, right? So is that the correct understanding?
Yes, that's the correct
Right.
understanding. Yeah.
So a net uh, what are, so one use case is of course the sales agent. What are the other use cases that you have think, or you are thinking of implementing or have implemented in terms of the AI agent? Because the more the people that I'm talking to, there is always a lot of interest, compassion, passion coming around the agentic AI world, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to derive out of this conversation an AI agent that actually helps and can really improve the productivity, plus can assist, not replace, the specific user of the business central app.
Yeah. Let me start with built-in agents that are available. The payables agent, and the very newest is the expense agent for managing expenses. The payables for managing vendor invoices. But the agent that for me that I'm currently working on, and it's based on the banking industry, or based on Business Central, is used a lot by what we call them credit unions or microfinance, or SACCOs. In Kenya, we call them SACCOs, savings and credit cooperatives. And there's a lot of issues on with regards to money laundering or trying to get anti-money laundering. And money laundering is a very broad, wide topic. You can get a 300-page PDF explaining to you how to determine if a customer is trying to, or they are doing money laundering. And this is where, with unstructured data, this is where now the agents perform the best. They can look at the customer and categorize, determine whether they have, okay, they can score them. Do they need to be flagged? Do they need to be, is it a critical case where now a user needs to investigate and check them when if they are money laundering or not? And it looks at basics like, is the KYC information correct? Their location information, their employer, do they have an employer? Such basic details. But when you look at scale with a credit union organization with 5,000 users or 20,000, not users, but members or customers, 20,000, 50,000 customers, then AI and a model will really help in helping solve that problem and helping them identify the problem faster.
How about the compliances, which organically brings me to the next point, right?
Yeah,
The like for example, you mentioned fraud detection, right?
yeah,
That is
yeah.
one of the use cases. So how does one solves compliances, document management? Because currently the document management is a place where people are using a lot of Gen AI, and then they are generating a lot of documents.
Yeah.
But then again, there is a review cycle that is missing. So let's assume if this business central, let's say sales module, where you have creating a quotation management or sort of opportunity management, and you have to prepare some sort of pre-sales document. Is there
Yeah.
some sort of a utility of an agent that we can spin up, or maybe something of that sort?
Yeah, in document management, of course, there is a way. No, I've not tried it in Business Central, but there's a friend of mine who is testing a document management, intelligent document management system, and he has a module for that detects a document that could be a fake document, which is an anomaly or a forged document. But when you look at this scenario here, because my big question was, this document has been created by an AI agent, and we are still using the same AI agent to try to detect that this document has been created by an AI agent and it's erroneous. So I feel like, will it get to a point where the agent will be like, okay, very good in understanding, because we are also training the agent. It will really mimic a document in a way that the other agent won't be able to detect that this document might be fake, because of course the agent is using some parameters, it's using some inputs,
Yeah.
there's a system prompt, it's using some, there's a criteria that it's using, predicting whether this document is fake based off what an original document would look like and what a fake document looks like. So it's a very open area, but I believe a combination of an agent and maybe document extraction, and of which, when you look at it, Azure Document Intelligence, sometimes document OCR, the OCR technology, it's not as efficient as agents now in terms of the way they retrieve information. Agents are way more efficient than the OCR technology in the nitty-gritties. So that's my open question. I haven't gotten an answer yet with that, because I'm not sure where we might get to a situation where the agent is more intelligent than the agent itself that is trying to verify the same documents. Yeah.
No, I think we deliberate on this topic a lot within the organization.
Yeah.
There was incident that I haven't really verified, but I think the news was that, and it's not a really latest news. It has been some time that Google has, or maybe Meta has created some sort of a chatbot, and these chatbot have started talking to each other, and then they are creating their own ecosystem, right? And then
Yeah.
they have
Yeah.
shut it down, right? Some sort of funny story. So we are saying that, and nowadays with the advent of summarizing the documents, any time you get a document, you basically ask a chat GPT or a Claude or some sort of other LLMs to summarize it for you, and then you send some sort of summary to these guys to prepare a final document, right? So it's
Yes.
just kind of funny that you're using the same thing to create same stuff. Let me take the discussion to and pause it from technical standpoint to
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
How is the craze of FIFA in Kenya?
Oh, it's crazy. FIFA is crazy. Like the World Cup, you mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
okay. We are
Which
all
one are you supporting right now?
okay. At the moment, I'm supporting any African country because Kenya did
Okay.
not qualify.
Yeah, yeah.
Our football, we are just joking. We usually say like Kenyans are joking with World Cup. We I don't know what's happening to our football ecosystem, but we are athletes. We run a lot. We win medals internationally. We have the
Yeah,
record for the sub two
yeah,
hour.
yeah.
The guy with the Sebastian Sawe, he's the record holder of running below 2 hours. He's from Kenya, so at least we are happy on those sides. Olympic
Mm,
and other athlete competitions, we are fine. But in
mm,
the I have in Europe, I think France is really doing well, and I like Olise. If it's a player, if you watch football, I really like how he plays. Leave alone
mm,
those big names, but Olise is my favorite in the World Cup right now. But in
mm.
Africa, of course, I'm supporting Senegal. I don't know, they are playing soon. I don't know if they'll go past, but any African team, Morocco will go far. But what I've
Yeah.
seen, they might meet France somewhere. So France is very tough. I don't know if they cross France, then they are real contenders. But of course, we are hopeful that at least an African team will go to at least semi-final, like last year. No, last World Cup, so that we maintain that. Yeah.
Mm. No, see, I am slightly old. I come from theory only sort of generation, and
Oh,
maybe so.
yeah,
The latest, I'm not really so much up to date, but I do watch FIFA
yeah,
very avidly. At least I do watch highlights because it's slightly later in
yeah. In
Indian
your
time
time
zone.
zone, yeah.
And India is super crazy about soccer. Yeah,
Mm,
and we share a very common dream. Someday, our national team should qualify for the World Cup.
yeah.
But tell me something. How is the influence of Europe over Kenya as a demography? Is there a sort of influence? Like, for example, as you go further north in Africa, there is some sort of influence of France that comes in. There's a lot of French speaking, natural French
Yeah,
speaking
yeah.
items.
The European influence is quite high in Africa. And when you look at the West Africa, mostly it's the French side. Kenya was actually colonized by Britain, the BRICS. So the English influence is quite high on this side, English speaking side. And of course, the West African side, you find that they are French speaking, they identify with the French people. Yeah, of course, maybe from that standpoint and learning in school, we are always taught in English. And like in East Africa, Tanzania is the only country that is taught in Swahili, which and English a little bit, but their main core language is a local language. Yeah, that's the influence that is there. Because yeah, and of course
Interesting.
in sports, the English Premier League people like watching it. Also because of the time favors. We are with England, we are like 2 hours or 3 hours difference depending on the season. So the time also favors the people to watch. Yeah.
So now, because you are quite closer compared to India, how is the influence of utilization of these business applications? Now I'm jumping back again, you see,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So business applications in Kenya itself, like how much people are receptive, what is the depth in which people have accepted, and what are the favorite applications that people are using right now for the efficiency? Business Central, of course, could be one, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
of course,
But
yeah.
what is the landscape looks like right now?
The landscape, the first of all, let me start with the local applications because there are so many. I can't, and I'm sure India also has so many locally developed applications that
Absolutely.
they run the hotels, they run the shops, and I really appreciate the developers who do that for the local clients. The person who just has a cafe with a few users, one or two users, a bar, or they have a small hospital, a small shop, and a school, maybe school management system, the small applications. So, first of all, from that standpoint, there are so many local applications which maybe they have not been given their flowers in a way where you can really you find in most of them you don't know they don't have a good cycle in terms of longevity. You might find that they are only operational in one town, maybe in Eldoret, or Eldoret is another town in Kenya, or Mombasa, And so those are really running some of the most SMBs around, because also from a cost angle, because our market is also very cost sensitive, then
Hmm.
they are way cheaper and they will be loved. And the availability of support is of course close. This is a person you can phone, you can see them, you can speak them in your native language, and you're happy about them. So coming now to the influence of applications like Business Central, Odo, Zoho, coming of course from the European market and everything. So how they come in, first of all, it starts with organizations that have multiple branches. An organization that is in Belgium and they are in Kenya, or they're in Denmark or England, France, and they have branches in Kenya, the KPMGs and everything. So now for them, they will be using a business application that is global. So those are the organizations that are the first adopters, because they already use those applications. Then now when
Right.
you come to, let's pick Business Central, the primary users when it was on-prem, because there's a tussle between on-prem and cloud with government institutions and parastatals in Kenya, they really love Business Central, because when it was perpetual, because they pay once, they pay enhancement plan every year, and they are really able to get all their operations in one ERP that is flexible. And the core selling point of these business applications from Europe is because a developer like me or my friend, you don't need specifically to have, you don't need, you can have, okay, there is an ecosystem of developers, because if I get an application and I'm a big organization and I get a local application where I can only see 2 or 3 founders, I am not sure if they'll still be in business 2 or 3 years from now. The scalability of those applications is what has been a challenge. But for starting, those applications are really running the economy in terms of getting these businesses up and running.
Okay, so basically the major use case, of course, government loves it, based on what I understand, and then there are mid-tier to above segment with like KPMG and all, which already have a confluence or influence
Yeah.
of these apps. They are quite receptive in terms of adopting Business Central or similar scale apps,
Yeah.
whereas rest of the market, the small medium segment, they are more receptive to local created apps. I
Yeah.
think that is quite similar to what we see in India as well. I think people are experimenting, and there are so many ERP software that I have forgot the name of them, WordPress ERP and so on and so forth. Right? Every company has their own set of ERP. So when you're implementing Business Central, is there any specific app add-on? Because I see that Business Central really runs on add-on apps that are available that
Yes,
you
the
can join
ISVs,
Business
yeah,
Central,
the
right? It's a
ISVs,
very
yeah.
thriving community that I see.
Yeah.
So, what are your favorite apps or anything that you built or you're planning to build right
Okay, I'm building something to do with budget availability on AppSource, and because it's not native in Business Central, but I want to make it a bit more intelligent, to make it more custom, in a way that users can really manage their budget well, to get analysis of their current budget status and everything. But
now?
my favorite add-on in Business Central that really works in the Kenyan market is an add-on to manage credit, or to manage loan management add-on.
Oh,
It,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, so there is an add-on to manage loan, as I was saying about members or credit unions. They are also a big user of Business Central. In Kenya, we have like over 20,000 credit unions. Credit unions. What if you don't know, or SACCOs? If maybe you are not familiar with that industry, this is um, the shareholder of a credit union are members like me and you. So we belong to a certain credit union. Like I can say, maybe we call it our monk circle. We say monk circle is our circle. So maybe all
Mm.
the MVPs, like the 3,000 MVPs, we belong to that monk circle. Then we deposit every month. We deposit money into that pool. Then I can
Mm.
borrow from that pool.
Right. Cooperative society kind of.
Exactly, cooperative
Yeah.
society. So
Yeah. Yeah.
the add-on that's working there, that is extended from Business Central and started with Navision, it's really working well. And of course, there was a historic issue before these systems came in, where the fraud issues, because if all the information was in a file, somebody can steal the file and you don't have a loan anymore. If imagine if your loan is in a file a file like
Mm.
this is your loan, and then somebody steals the file or the file disappears, then you don't have a loan. When they go to the files, they're like, okay, where is this loan? They can go to the bank, but they can't see. So there was a lot of those cases happening, but now it's a really good module that has really impacted.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I have few follow-up question on this,
yeah,
but but there is an interesting thing that I'm remembering right now
yeah,
with the I think there is this blockchain technology that initially was coming up, right?
yes, yes,
There was a very heavy use case of securing the documentation because you have like so many servers, so you really have individual copy of that in each
yeah.
of the servers. But the actual adaptability, has it reached to Africa yet, or do you see any such thing happening vis-a-vis business or vis-a-vis any
Yeah,
customer?
vis-a-vis any the blockchain technology, I have not had an experience of a real good use case where it has really impacted, despite
Mm.
having some cases of fraud in most of these credit unions or banks. I have not had a solution that is directed in that way. Most of the solutions have been into access, limiting access, cybersecurity, and everything. And maybe it's because of how high volume of a transaction those organizations demand, and maybe the blockchain technology, I think it's all about transaction consistency. If the transaction is not matching the one on this other database, then it will flag it as a transaction that is not consistent. But not yet. I don't think it got to a level where the use case is really massive. Yeah, I
Mm.
don't think it got to that. And I don't know what the problem is. Maybe in India, was it really adopted, or is there an
No,
industry that
to be very
used
honest, I stopped tracking
blockchain?
blockchain for a very long time now because
Yeah,
initially, so that's what I was also worried about AI at certain point in time before, but of course it has picked up pretty well.
yeah.
Generally, whenever there is a disruption that happens with a new tech that comes in after every 3 4 years, you tend to feel that it is going to make some dent, like ML and then data science and lot of other stuff. But at the
Absolutely.
end of the day, the actual user adoption it really happens when there is a ease of usage. Developers understand the language, implementation is super easy. Then you see a massive, like for example, .NET is a very classic case where back then in 20 early 20s late 20s 2000s,
Yeah.
people adopted .NET like anything because it was so easy in terms of coding structure. You understand because everybody is very used to C, right? And C sharp coming in, and then of
Mm.
course, coding in it and what you're coding is always depending upon the use case can be complex and semi-complex, but at least adaptability was very good for .NET. But having said that, let me come back to my original question now, which is when do you decide whether you want to customize Business Central or create an add-on app, or maybe optimize the process for the customer? I know it's not the same answer for everybody. It purely
Yeah,
depends upon process
that
to process.
one of the toughest sometimes, because
Yeah.
it's by case by it's for a case by case basis. I don't I have never implemented Business Central to a client that required zero customization. Never ever. And actually, Business Central is giving partners the opportunity to have their own IP. The reason why it's a distinguishing product is because you are not, Microsoft is giving you a platform. I have a core
Mm.
application. I can add on my IP. I can add on my knowledge, of my deep knowledge or my deep expertise. For example, in these cooperatives or the credit unions, I can add my deep expertise and make them work on the same system as if it's their system that they bought. Like that's the power with BC. And of course, if it's let me say a parastatal or an NGO organization, and they have a specific way of working, I can customize. But this comes with a challenge of, since I can do that, there's
Mm.
a loophole of over customization, which I feel like we'll never get to the end of it, because at times it's the clients that put us in a rabbit hole. They don't want to
Mm.
change their process. What if the client says, my process has to start here and it ends here? I have paid
Mm.
you to do it. So the partners are in a mix. In the base application, this is how it works. And let me tell you, like the Kenyan clients, they are crazy on customization.
Mm,
especially the reports, the way they want to appear. They don't care
mm,
what Business Central is shipping. This is the
mm,
sales order. This is the invoice that is the coming with Business Central. But this is my format. Whether it's ugly or it's or you don't like it, this is how I want it. So you either give me that or you just go away. You don't know what you're doing. So so
mm.
it's a balance, but when to determine customization, get the balance. I think listen to the customers, listen to their needs. If I'm adding an if there, if the customer is open to suggestions or to changing their process to fit the system, best cases, because there are clients who are like, okay, you advise us on the best cases. Those are the best customers that can give you an application that will work with you. But if you're implementing, for example, in Kenya, with customers who are like, this is how we want it, this is how it works, do it, but there is a way also that you can do it. You can customize in a way that does not break the base application. Customize it in a way that you can add features to the base application, because there is a way that you can still use the base application, give the customer what they want, but don't break what is existing in the base application.
So I think basically all the developing countries which are developing very fast, like India, Kenya,
Yeah,
right? I think the mindset is quite very similar because people are very passionate about getting new feature sets and getting new things. And then they want to move very aggressively on the cost of accuracy or security, for that matter. I think my question was more from the standpoint, like, is there of course optimizing the process if we can, and if
yeah,
customer agrees, there's nothing like it because you are doing mostly out of the box, there's very less chances, which you are very correct, I completely agree.
yeah.
But whenever you have to do a customization, what is the first thing, or how do you segregate it, whether it can be a standalone ISV that can be plugged in later, which can be reused, right? What are
Yeah.
those models that you think of when you decide
No,
that?
it's all about thinking about this customer. I'm building for this customer, but I'm sure this will be needed by another customer. It always happens, I think, in IT. When if you solve one problem for a customer, it's not
No,
unique. I don't think there are
I'm
problems.
sorry, I'm interjecting you there.
Yeah,
I'm absolutely sorry about that. Let me put some contextual examples so that,
exactly.
right? So let's assume, yeah, for example, in customer engagement, generally what we think of is, okay, if there is any additional customization or extensions that we do, which is going, let's say, more than X number of fields, that data fields that you want to add, or maybe these numbers of tables that you're going to increase, or there
Yeah,
is some sort of a custom functionality that in itself is becoming not a user story now but a feature, right? So that is where we start thinking about, oh, could this be a feature that is filling a hole or a gap in the
yeah,
product rather
yeah,
than that, right? So in business central, since, and in customer engagement it happens a lot because customer engagement is very open to interpretation, right? Like for example, sales services, it rarely fits, right? But like for example, a product like Business Central, which is very specific to finance, procurements, project operations, where the process and methodology is quite standard, but of course you have data which is different. How
yeah.
often you find such extensions that are required?
It's actually, I think, in all or mostly all implementations. But in some cases, since you have asked that, in some cases you might not need to have it on app source. For some customers who are just add one field on maybe the sales quote or on the sales order for my own consumption. That is just for theirs. They just want a field there so that they add their own unique, I don't know, part number or something. So that could not be a good use case. But you find this, most of the changes come in form of maybe regulatory expectations, because I was
True.
building an extension of e-invoicing,
Hmm.
e-invoicing for
Yeah,
Nigeria.
very correct example.
Yes,
E-invoicing is one of the module that has been making very kind of waves where you need customizations, etc.
exactly, because you need to communicate to the taxpayer and
True.
send the invoice information, and then the invoice comes back and it's sent. So there's that intra communication. So for that case of an e-invoicing, I am sure how many organizations, for example, in the case of Nigeria, need that. Almost
Mm.
all of them, they need
All of
that.
them.
You can just clearly see that this is an extension. Yes, I'm building for one client, but I really need to build it in a way that it will work for other clients. Not, there is no I ensure that there is no, and Business Central is setup based, no rigid code or hard coding on the base application where you're saying if the customer name is this particular person, don't post or post. So the setup based way of flow will be really helpful, because you are building, or I am building for a bigger pool of clients. I'm not only building for this particular client, but I'm building for many of them. So you can clearly see even from just listening to the problem. The other issue I give you, another issue you can look at, for example, South Africa, they have this what we call triple BE, where they classify organizations based on their inclusivity. So
Mm.
there are many ISVs already there that are doing that. But when you look at it just from a standpoint, and you look, I think the starting point where the regulator is enforcing it, you are sure that most organizations would want to be compliant. And that's a
Mm.
very good candidate for an ISV.
Absolutely, completely agree.
Yeah.
Have you heard about this term ER, electronic reporting or something? Because I've very recently heard this in FNO, where
Yeah.
you can do a low code, no code kind of reporting changes. You can upload your template, map the template, etc. Is there something of that sort in Business Central?
Yes. We report layouts now. If all the fields that you require are part of the data set, and I've gone a bit technical here, but if of course the
Please.
original report has all the fields that you require in your new report, maybe you just want the template to be changed. You don't need development. You just export that template, then
Mm.
you copy it, you rename it to whatever you want, you tweak the display the way you want, re-upload it back. Within a few clicks of a button, you are good with a new template. Yeah.
What about calculations? Like, for example, let's say invoice, and you have
Yeah.
multiple invoice line items,
That's what
and
I'm
then you're
saying.
a
If all the information that you need to display is already done on the dataset, if not, then you need
Mm.
to go and get the
Right,
dataset
customers.
updated to have that information in. And it really
True.
works well with word reports, because there are word reports and, of course, what we call word reports and Excel reports. And of course, RDLC. RDLC, you can do calculations on the report, but I don't recommend that, because it will not be maintainable. Imagine there is a calculation that is not sitting on the code, it's sitting in the front end of a report. If somebody wants to maintain
Mm.
that, it's very hard. Yeah.
RDLC, are you talking about the SSRS report? Are you talking about
No,
this?
RDLC is just, you can create an RDLC report in Business Central. The format, it
Okay.
can be either a Word report. Your report in Business Central can be in several formats. It could be Word, RDLC, or Excel, and of course, custom. I've not tried the custom because the Word, Excel, and RDLC have always been giving me what I want, but
Hmm.
there's another custom format that is existing.
How difficult or easy is customizing Business Central, like extending Business Central technically?
Let me tell you where the difficulty comes in. The difficulty is humbling yourself to understand the base application.
Mm.
Like, yes, I'm a developer, but now slowing down a bit and saying what and I find myself in such a situation because there are so many modules in Business Central. And this example was, for example, there's a new feature known as the sales price list. For example, you can have several categories of customers where you can say, if a customer belongs to this location, then they get a 10% discount on this number of items. So it's so dynamic. It works really well in the base application. I needed to customize a feature in the sales price list, but geez, because I was like, okay, I know sales orders, I can customize. And I wasted a lot of time, close to a day, because I didn't take time to understand what is this thing doing. So the biggest learning curve in BC is always slowing down again,
Mm-hmm.
becoming a functional consultant,
True.
learning, understanding what first, which module am I extending? Is the base application giving me exactly what I want? And getting that humble pie, and of course, is it eating the humble pie, if they say it, and understanding what's happening there in the base application, and then reinventing it after that, and doing it again, and picking it up from that point of view. Because now, if there's a feature already working, you can leverage on it, and you are only adding one or two things. That's usually one of the most difficult part in
Absolutely. Doing
Business
the right
Central.
fitment.
Yes, but of
Right
course,
fitment.
As of now, I'd say with that understanding, of course, and with the ability to generate code autonomously, like you can just generate code,
True.
then this one even become more important. Understanding the base, because you can clearly know I'm only adding to this. I'm not just adding a lot of information, but I have first understood whatever was developed, does it work for the client, and which part doesn't work, so that I can add that part. So it becomes even more critical, more and more critical. Yeah.
What is the average implementation time
Yeah.
for a small medium business who wants to
This
extract the
one.
best value out of the business center? Let's assume, I know it's a very
How many
uh,
users? How many users are we looking
theory.
at?
Yeah, let's assume it's like 10, 20 users,
10, 20
and
users.
then
Do they
yeah,
have, are they serious? Have they dedicated time? Because the time is based on also the organization. Also, the other thing, do they have their audited financials ready? So that if they have their audited financials, do they have a specific point of time or the opening balance state that they want to start? They want to deploy as of a certain date, and they're clear, they have audited their financials, they're ready. 2 weeks will be enough for such people. 2 weeks will be enough. But of course, the things that I'm asking are the ones that shape the period. Like, how long will it be required? Because I remember of an implementation that was one of the. I thought that it would work for 1 month. I was with a functional and I'm the developer, and we went there. The guys were speaking big, like, "Oh, we know this. We have all this information." I'm like, "Okay, guys, this I'm really happy. This project, because it was in November, beginning of November, I was like, I will have the best December because I won't touch any system in December in terms of implementation. It will only be support. We did that. We did that deployment. Like, we started the project. Then the first thing we were like, okay, where are your audited finance records? They're like, okay, we now need. Let's talk to the auditor. The auditor said that they will send them. We're like, okay, we have traveled, we have an important meeting, we'll be back in 3 weeks. We're like, okay, now how will this system be completed in a month? Then all of a sudden it became a cycle that close took it took up to a year, trust you me, before even going live, because of course those basics. Like, even in that's why sometimes I feel like the implementation is not even pegged to as an organization being small. Some small
I
organizations, they can be tougher to implement if they are not orderly, compared to bigger organizations which have structures and they have already their data ready. Yeah, yeah.
So I just met very recently prospect who actually purchased Business Central licenses
Yes.
and was sitting on the top of those Business Central licenses and did spend almost a year
Yeah.
in getting it implemented. And then at the end of the day, they reached out
Okay.
and saying that, can you give us a templatized version of data and the processes that works for our industry and show us a demo. Because we went there to understand, oh, let's do some discovery, what are your pain points since you have already Business Central implemented and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. But they were so literally pissed off with the existing implementation because that hadn't happened based on what they really like. So which brings me to a point where customers have now started realizing that since Business Central is a generic product, or for that matter, all the SaaS or ERPs are generic products. There is a need for industry specific templates where somebody comes in and say, okay, we understand your industry, we understand the master data that you need
Yeah.
and the potential processes. We come here and then we just deploy this for you. You use it for some time, and then you come to us and tell us what exactly you want to customize. That is the latest need that has started coming up in the market. That's what I'm
Of
just thinking.
course, and you expect it with the GPTs here. Everybody is able to generate few things here and there.
Absolutely.
So they expect you to
Absolutely.
do magic as well. Like, you'll just come, you have your template, you have given them the template. Because you're an expert, then you magically understand that this industry works for them, and then you're able to implement, and then they can keep changing from there. Let me say, I understand that, especially, but what's critical is it's the chart of accounts or the general ledger. The other templates for customer vendor, they are not. Of course, that's more common because you just need the KYC information and maybe their location and a few other details, and then you're good to go. But the master data, of course, only cleanup will be needed. But the general ledger is the one that will really drill down, because that is what will determine how the trial balance will look like. The health of the business will be determined from the GL, and my experience is uh, the involvement might not, they don't need to take a lot of time. The accountant who understands the business is the best person to give. Of course, you can start from a template, is the best person to give a go ahead of this is the final chart of accounts and how we want it to appear. Because it's a simple thing to let the implementer suggest for you. But again, if you let it go like that, then ideally most of the time change management becomes an issue because they feel like you're still imposing on them. Clients have, they have a funny way of working because most clients they'll be like,
Absolutely.
I want you to do it for me, show me. Then they'll be like, whatever you showed me, I don't want it. Then I'm like, okay, but you told me that you are the one who told me that this is what you want me to give you. Then all of a sudden, once you give them what you think will be good for them, they're like, no, whatever you gave me is not what I expected you to give me. Then like, what do you want me to give you? Then you end up in a cycle. And I asked, there's a very great partner in South Africa, and what he was telling me is like for them, they don't operate on whatever you're saying, like they operate on sign-offs. They are very strict.
True.
They operate only on sign-offs. Yes,
Hmm.
you tell us this is what you want, but they give you a sign-off. They're like, okay, this is the document. Review it, sign against it, and then we will implement it. Then we go to the next phase. Because now the client will take ownership. Because when you tell them now to sign, they get serious. They'll be like, okay, now I have to check. I have to
Hmm.
confirm that this is the account that I want. Otherwise, then the change management becomes an issue. Yeah.
Sangi, before I move to my last section, I have
Sure.
just one last question, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
for the upcoming budding talent that is coming in,
Yeah.
right? What is your recommendation? How do they create a distinction in their career with respect? And this is a question that we have been asking to all the MVPs,
Yeah.
and more or less we have the answer that we have got, which is pretty much the same thing that everybody tells, is that
Yeah.
you have to have a passion about learning new things,
Mm-hmm.
invest in AI, and think about it. Since you are very close to teaching and
Yeah.
alongside what you do, um, what do you think is missing in the current new generation that is coming in, or how they plug, or what are the challenges that is new for them? Because when you started the career, I started the career, our challenges were different, right?
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
what are
Yeah.
their challenges? How should they plug in?
Yeah. The challenges that the challenge that they are facing is amplification of many possibilities. Like
Hmm.
they can get into a shiny object syndrome where they are just jumping from one product to the other. Today I'm
Hmm.
doing Business Central, I don't like it, I got frustrated. Tomorrow I run to F&O, F&O. The next day I'm in Power BI. The next day I'm okay. I saw a cool dashboard in Power BI. The next day I have to go to this Power BI
Hmm.
or anything. What I say is this, like if you are a young person, 1 year of your life in one product is not a waste. If it's CE or it's Business Central or you have decided it's Python or C Sharp, or 1 year of your life won't be a waste. Focus.
Hmm.
That's the differentiator. Like how people need to know it is still the same. Like in as much as yes, there are models, you have Chat GPT, but there is a use case specific to your language. There is a use case specific to your industry. If you have picked Power BI, dive deep, do the advanced dashboards, be the best in one line, and of course only explore lines that are adding on top of that line, because that is where now you can actually add value to one client, and it will now scale to the next and then the other client. And when people speak to you, they can clearly see that you understand examples, because by doing it and maybe getting certified in Power BI or Business Central or one product line, and if it is in the Microsoft ecosystem or whichever ecosystem, if it is SAP, get certified in that and do it. And if you decide to be an AI engineer, do it for 1 year, remain there. You're just doing it consistently. It will be boring, it will get to a point where it's not exciting anymore. And I see that as the key differentiator in somebody who goes far, rather than someone who will know many things but not master at least one thing. Yeah.
So basically, decide and stick to it and give it at least 1 year of your time and then figure out what you
Give
really
it
want to
whatever it takes. Give it one
do.
year of your time. You're not wasting time by giving it 1 year because it might seem like and this is the problem. Everybody, you have started Business Central and then you see another shiny object like, oh, if you become an AI engineer, you'll get $100,000 a
Yeah.
year. Somebody's like, oh, this Business Central thing is not working. Let me start on this other path. So yeah, that
No, no,
really matters.
pretty sane advice.
Yeah.
Now moving to my final section, which is rapid fire. I'm going to ask you two, three questions, and you have to actually come back with a single liner or one word, right?
Okay.
Um, Dynamics or Zoho? Which one will you bet for the next 5 years?
Dynamics.
That was a pretty straight one, right?
Yeah.
The most overused buzzword in Dynamics world, right?
Also had agents.
One YouTube video every Business Central beginner should watch first.
My YouTube video on getting started in AL programming
So we will paste Sangi's YouTube
channel.
channel
Yeah. Yeah.
link while we are posting this video. Sangi, thank you so much for your time and for the valuable discussion that you had. I really had great fun decoding Business Central.
Sure.
Specifically, it's an enigma to a lot of people, and there has been a lot of questions around why Business Central, why not FNO, why Business Central, why not Zoho, why not
Yeah.
Odoo, right? I think Business Central has created its own niche, and
Yep.
what we have understood today, just to summarize, that Business Central as a competitive product gives you a lot of extensions, even if and where you can extend or maybe use app source, get
Yep.
an app from there. But as what happens with every product, you have to really understand your own use cases and how do you retrofit it there, right? um,
Absolutely.
before we go, let me teach you one last focus way of meditation, right?
Okay.
As is the
Okay.
rhythm,
I'm
right?
ready. I'm ready. So what you do?
All you have to do is
Yeah.
you have to, before you close your eyes, you have to close your eyes, but before you
Oh.
close your eyes,
Okay.
so that you can understand,
Yeah.
is that you have to take a deep breath, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then close your eyes,
Okay.
and then you spell Om, and then you slowly exhale, right? And you extend that exhale as long as you can, right? So let's see who can do it
Okay.
longest.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's
Okay.
go.
So three. So we basically take inhale, right? Exhale. Hey, you are from Kenya. You should have much more lung power.
Oh, jeez, jeez, jeez. That one, I need to add lung power.
No, I really had fun, Sangi, and
Yeah.
it's really great to meet a passionate person.
Okay.
You
Thank
have
you.
really spoken about all the different things that we discussed, and really appreciate the clarity and openness with which you have come back. Thank you so much for your time.